Hey guys, thanks for joining me for another Dissidia Final Fantasy Opera Omnia video, and today we're going to do a Should You Pull for Ashe FRBT. And now this Should You Pull is going to be a little bit interesting in that we don't know 100% what the banners are going to look like, but I think I've got it calculated down, and I think I know what the mystery characters are going to be. So I'm going to reveal that at the end. We're going to talk about the other characters first. Now, I can base this off of JP's timeline, but they've definitely mixed things up so far in the way that they've kind of organized it for the anniversary. So based on what I know, I'm going to kind of give you my logical answer as to what these mystery characters are going to be. So first, let's talk about one of the banners here. Will be Ashe, and then we'll have Kimahri and we'll have Setzer. Now, when looking at these characters, there is value to Setzer. Setzer is a character that always has some value in the game. I feel like his value is probably lesser now than it used to be. And Setzer's big thing is he enables the party of rainbow numbers, okay? And rainbow numbers were really busted because there would, whenever they feature Setzer, they usually have fights where the enemies have huge brave damage reduction or set your brave to 1, things like that. There probably will be a gimmick in this fight, maybe that does that, we'll see. But back in really hard Lufenia Plus, it was really... There was a lot of bosses that had really heavy defense and things like that, and that's why Locke was more relevant because he had ignore defense. So Setzer is just a way that if there was really massive brave damage reductions, or if your element is resisted or whatever, he basically can pierce through that with rainbow numbers, right? I would say in today's game he's a lot less relevant because most characters don't have a problem capping brave, and even if enemies negate your brave damage and have you do ones, we can just brave gain over it anyways. I think one of my recent Shinryu runs I was doing ones the whole time and we beat it just fine. So Setzer I think has lost a little bit of value. I think maybe when he gets his FR he'll be a little bit better, but right now I don't think you all need to stress about Setzer. Kimahri I've always thought is an interesting character. He's a character that's kind of always in the middle because he doesn't he does a lot of things, but he doesn't do any of them the best, but he does have a lot of utility. I would say he's a very good utility character. You could maybe use him as your main support. He does have some healing, and he has a lot of debuffing, and he has a really unique debuff that is 100% blind on the enemies. So depending on how you use him, you can upkeep his blind and make the enemies miss you, which can be really cool. Once again though, Kimahri, because if you like the combination of things that he does, then he could be a character you want to get. But in right now's meta, he's not a character you're going to be going out of your way to get, I don't think. But you definitely can make some good use out of him. He's a pretty fun little character, right? Then we have Ashe. Ashe kind of has two things that make her unique, and one is that she does have a Paralyze that she can put on, and then she also has EX charging, which is a very rare thing. So she has a very powerful EX charge ability, which I can see why they would pair her with someone like Kimahri, because you can get Kimahri's EX off more often, and I believe that's the part that puts the blind on. So there's definitely some combos there. I would say overall, this banner right here in particular is probably skippable to most players. And I would say it's very similar to Jessie, right? Where Ashe can do some cool things. She's got some shutdown mechanics in there, right? She can do pretty decent damage. But do you need her? Is she top tier of the meta? Not really. That being said, I am going to go for her. I'm going to go for her FRBT just because I personally like Ashe. And anytime you have a favorite, it's always good to go for them. So yeah, so if you really like Ashe, definitely go for it. You're going to be able to get some good use out of her. But for the average player that's maybe low on resources, you're saving for the best characters, this is probably a skip right here. Now the other banner will have Rem and Agrias. And then there will be the mystery characters, which I will talk about in a minute, right? Now, in terms of Rem and Agrias, these are also both very cool characters. Rem is one of my actual favorite characters in the game, hands down. The thing that's cool about Rem is she works with any team comp in the fact that her main mechanic is swap turns, which allows other characters to take more turns. So you can just enable your main DPS to take more turns. She pairs really well with super slow characters. So you could pair her with Anna Crow or Sync, Sid Reigns to do shenanigans with that, where you can basically just keep giving them more and more turns. So Rem is just a cool character in that even when she's not the most updated and she's far away from her rework, she's always usable because having her swap turns is kind of just running a two-person team, and she's just there providing. She does a little bit of off turn every time she does an action. with her LD, and then she also has like a really fat cure, right? So she's kind of like this invisible character that is healing you, doing some good things like good auras for the party and everything, but she's just giving up her turn for other characters a lot of the time, which is fine. So yeah, she is a cool support character. I do really like her. And she's kind of got an interesting mechanic in that she has force charging, but it's kind of like in the middle. Like, it's better than an average character, but it's not as good as like a total instant turn character. It's weird. It's like an in-between, because it's kind of like an off turn, but then since you're like swapping turns and doing off turn, like it's not quite as high. It's weird, but she's a pseudo force charger if you want to use her like that, right? Agrius, again, is another cool character. She has a silence mechanic, which will stop enemies from using magic attacks. She has a probably one of the more powerful like paralyzes in the game, in the fact that it's a confuse. And the reason why hers is so unique is that there's a lot of enemies that resist paralyze, but like her confuse gets around it. There's even some enemies that have resisted confuse, and her still gets around it too. She's been used to cheese some very, very hard fights in the past, right? So she's good if you like kind of denying enemy turns and things like that. She could combo well with like a Jessie, where like you're doing a combination of delaying, and then by the time they get a turn, you might have her confuse up, and you can use that on them, right? And then she also has a lot of paralyze. Hers isn't guaranteed, but it's like an AoE paralyze that has a chance to trigger, and then if you use her AA, you can guarantee it. So yeah, Agrius is a real shutdown character. So once again, she has a confuse, she has a paralyze, and she has silence. So she has a lot of shutdown mechanics. So if you like shutdown, she could be good as well, right? Now, neither of these two characters, once again, they're not like top of the meta or whatever, but Rem, I would say, is a cool, flexible character that you can just make your better characters work. Rem is a character where she's as good as the team is. If the team's really good, then Rem's good, because you're giving those good characters more turns. If your team is bad, Rem isn't going to really help you get better, because she's just going to keep you healed and give your bad characters more turns, right? So if you've got like really good team setups and you want to try sliding Rem into that role, you definitely could do that, right? I don't know that I would go out of my way for these characters, right? But if you're summoning for, say, the mystery character, who I'm going to talk about in a minute, and then you get these characters along the way, I would say the Rem Agrius, like for the side characters, is much stronger than the Kamari Setzer side, in my opinion, right? And they might not do it in this exact order. This is just what I think it's going to be. Now probably what you're waiting for is, what are the mystery characters going to be? And I might put it in the title. Some of you might be thinking, could they slide in another global first here, right? Because there was the 1 year, remember when we got Balthier for year 3? Basically in this similar time frame, they slid Vincent in as like a surprise, like early LD character. So I'm going to say that's definitely a possibility, but I don't think that's what's going to happen. So what they've done so far is there's been several like kind of side campaign characters that Global has kind of shifted around, but they were all taking place like around this time in JP's timeline, right? So we had like Ishtola was kind of shifted around, we got Laguna, we got Titus, they're all kind of moved around and plugged in, right? Well, there happens to be 2 characters that are these campaign characters that have not been slid in yet. And what we noticed from the community stream is that the first Ashe banner is going to slide in an FRBT character, and then Strago's banner, who's coming after this, slides in a BTFR character. So I'm going to show you who I think those 2 characters are, and I can't guarantee which one is going to be on the Ashe banner, because they've been sliding stuff around, but it's going to be one of these 2. So I think the mystery character will either be Gabranth or Renoa. And I think between Strago's banner and this Ashe banner, these are the 2 characters that are going to slide in. I really want, it would be super cool if it was another global first, but I really don't think it is. And it just makes too much sense, because these are literally the only 2 characters from the JP timeline that are kind of these weird campaign banner characters that haven't slid in yet. And so here's the thing. If one of them, if like this banner right here, if we slide Renoa into this slot, so if we do this, this banner is very much worth summoning on, if that's what this is. If it's Gabranth there, then it's going to be, maybe, maybe not. But for those of you unfamiliar, unless you've been living under a rock, Renoa is probably still the best AoE damage dealer in the game. I would say the only way she gets out damaged is maybe by Lan and Rain if they're fully maxed out in a 3-target fight. But otherwise, like, Renoa is like top tier. Oh, hold on a second. I'll call you back. I'm almost done with the video. Call my wife back in just a moment. But if this is Renoa, then yes, you definitely should go and summon here, because getting Rem and Agrius as side characters along with Renoa is actually pretty good value, I think. Gabrath, he's like a damage dealer, but he's focused a lot around debuffs. He does have very good powerful debuffs. So if you're lacking a good debuffer, then Gabrath you could pick up, but you know, he's a BT character, so you would want to invest into his BT a little bit. He's a little bit higher investment. If you already picked up Laguna, you've definitely got your debuffer role filled, and you probably don't need Gabrath, but he's not bad. He's a really cool character. So anyways, guys, there you go. I think the mystery characters this month are in the next two banners are going to be Gabrath and Renoa. I think if Renoa is here, I would definitely summon on this. But otherwise, I would say the rest of it's pretty darn skippable. So anyways, guys, let me know if you're going to summon or not. Let me know if you think it's something different for the mystery characters. Thanks for watching. We'll catch y'all on the next one.